Well, let's talk about creative burnout.
Ooh.
Let's talk about it.
I mean, I feel like if anyone knows your schedule, you're always on a plane, shooting on a plane, shooting on a plane. How do you make sure that you don't have burnout? Because I feel like when you come back in town, you don't really rest. You go and work some more. So how do you actually reset?
That is a great question. Because it's great because I realize sometimes I got to be more on top of that myself. So let me first off say I'm not perfect. I still got to work on this a little more. About my schedule, like I will be shooting in a different city at one point in time from Monday to Friday, hop on a plane, get home Friday night, shoot or assist on Saturday or Sunday and be on another plane. And what I'm realizing is when I was training for track, I used to have the ability to have full off days, what we call rest days, recovery days, where I just wouldn't really do much. And maybe sometimes I even have weekends where I could do that. But now with my active lifestyle, I'm able to find that in more chunks. So I kind of get my self-care in chunks, if that makes sense. Oftentimes it's nice to have like straight like 2-3 days of not doing nothing, which is rare for me now. But if I'm not able to do that extended period of rest, then I make sure that I at least have, if I'm shooting from 9 to 12, then that means from 3 to whenever I go to bed that night, I'm on Netflix, I'm chilling. I just gotta create my self-care in chunks. And then when I get home, I do as best as I can to have one day off, even though that doesn't always work. So I'm trying to get back to that. But yeah, and that's usually like a Sunday, which I call it my Olu day. Corny as hell, but I mean, it works. So I just try to have like one day where it's just for me. But as I said, I need to do a little bit better about that because I got to start telling more people no.
Shoot, I mean, we all do. I feel like, we started doing Wellness Wednesdays, and that was kind of my way to hold myself accountable to rest because I feel, especially as most entrepreneurs or most creatives and most Capricorns are workaholics, right? Like we feel guilty when we rest. Like I remember, even for me, still till this day, if I'm resting, I'm in my head, I'm like, I could be getting this, I could be getting this, and what about this, what about that? And I've had to allow myself to know that you deserve rest, that you deserve to sit on your couch, catch up on your shows, and not do a thing. Put your phone on Do Not Disturb.
Talk about
and
it.
just enjoy that time. And I know even for me, whenever I'm traveling, I try to at least the day I come back, I try to make that my rest day to just be lazy and to appreciate being lazy. Now, I don't do it as often as I should, and I don't do it all the time because I can see Genesis side-eyeing me about that. And I mean, all y'all always be side-eyeing me too, like, get your rest, but it's hard when you know that there's work to be done.
Yeah.
But it is very important, especially the older we get.
Senior citizens talking.
Man. Ooh, senior citizen. We the senior citizens at the studio.
We got our AARP cards in the
Listen,
mail, baby.
But like, and everyone knows me that knows, like, I love naps. Yeah. Like, that's one thing that I'm still consistent with till this day. I may not nap every day, but I'm going to nap multiple times a week just to give yourself that little boost, that little reset. Just, resting is very, very important. And like you said, if you could just get little chunks in at a time until you're able to hold yourself accountable to have those full days, those little moments take a lot, and I think it's definitely, it's important to make sure that you add that into your schedule as a creative and as an entrepreneur.
For sure. And even piggybacking off of that, like, what you don't realize is, okay, sometimes this is an idea you gave to me like months ago, but it's active rest. And it's ironic because when I was training full time, it's like active rest is a major component about what we do. But when you're away from that, like that world, you think, okay, rest means kicking up my feet and not doing nothing. But active rest is just as important. And what I'm learning now is that, because I've been a year on this really like double full-time position I'm doing, when I get my rest in chunks like I do, when I do have time where I like will take a full week of PTO, or maybe I'll have like some shoots that cancel and I have like 4 days off, sometimes after a day and a half, I'm too restless to sit still.
Right.
Which then, as you said, I'll get in my head and I'm not even resting in it at that point anymore, because if your mind's not resting, your body's not going to be resting. So for me is, okay, get my rest in chunks, and then if I have an extended period of time, get as much rest as I can. But once my mind starts going again, rather than try to think of, okay, I got to like, on one hand, like, yeah, sometimes you do got to just be lazy. But on the other hand, it's like, okay, maybe my rest doesn't necessarily mean I'm sitting up, like laying in bed all day this time around. Maybe I just get some work done around the house. Maybe I do some yard work. Maybe I rake some leaves. Let me do something away from the camera. Or let me go, if it's not involving something that's not involving the camera, but it's still active.
Right.
Active recovery is still recovery. That's something that's easy to forget because, I mean, again, I always relate to sports, but like just sitting down and letting your body get, in other words, stagnant, it's not necessarily healthy. You want to keep things flowing, but without exerting too much energy.
Right.
So the same thing creatively, like, lately I've been watching a lot of 90s, late 90s and like early 2000s. Hey, I'm going to talk about it. When I was a kid, we don't crack, baby. So I'm going to make sure that like I'm watching these videos because on one hand, it's just entertainment. Like I was watching the Bow Wow Bounce With Me video. No shame. That song is hard. So I'm watching that, but I'm just saying this like it's regular. But I mean, so
the Bow Wow. Shout out to Bow Wow, all the Bow Wow fans out there. Shad Moss.
Shout out Shad Moss. Hey, bro, that Beware of Dog was a hard album. I was only 9 years old.
I used to wear my braids because of Bow Wow. I'm going to be honest.
Don't come for me. Don't come for me. So, like, when I watch, like, music videos from that era, which is, like, my favorite time of music. And then it's active rest because, on one hand, my mind is engaged. I'm looking and I'm like, how did they shoot that? How did they do this? Why did I love this so much when I was 9 before I knew the technical side? Then now I can watch it as an adult, still be entertained by the music, but my mind on the back end. Why you going to put in that picture up? Oh, man. You're going to put up a picture of Bow Wow throughout the ages, man. We're going through a whole shuffled slideshow of Bow Wow right now. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this, man? Our producer's a comedian, by the way. So you're going to have to just put all these pictures up so people can see this. So they know we aren't just laughing for no reason. But, man, what was I even saying? Like,
we're talking resting.
Yes. So I'll watch these videos and my mind is like taking all this information in. So now, even though I'm resting because I'm not really creating anything, my subconscious mind is still at work taking this inspiration. And then whenever I pull out the camera for my own creative day, I find myself now like being inspired by the work I just watched. So find new ways to be like, get active rest where you can just kind of consume instead of being the creator. And I know a lot of people who have a battle with that, but sometimes it's okay to just sit back.
I think that's a great note you said about consuming because oftentimes I think like what you said about watching the 2000s, watching it reminds you of your youth. And it reminds you of like those innocent times and you're able to pull back so much creative inspiration from that. Because even for me, when I'm at my active rest is kicking up and watching shows. Yeah. And like I grew up, for some odd reason, my dad had us watching Law and Order from the time we were like 5. And we used to like have nightmares, but now I love the show. Yeah. And although I'm not in law or I'm not in any of that, I still watch the show from a creative standpoint, right? So I'm looking at the lighting, I'm looking at the shots, I'm looking at how, looking at the creative control that created that show. And I'm even finding some ways to figure out, okay, how can I instill this within my own work, even though I don't shoot stuff like Law and Order, So it's like understanding, like you said, that rest, although it may not look the way it looks for everybody, but you need that reset and you need that rest for your mind to help you creatively.
Talk about it.
To help you, help you create
creatively.
To help your
your creativity thrive.
Yeah, that thing. Yeah. Oh my gosh. But I think like you said, resting is just very, very important, not just for your physical self. And I mean, now that I've hit over 30,
man, if you don't stop,
it physically you physically feel the difference, like
that's true.
When I worked the track meet, that next day I barely could move. And I'm like, this never used to happen, and now I'm hopping into Normatec, I'm using the massage gun, I'm doing all these different things. I'm stealing a lot of my husband's therapy rituals. But for me, it's like you said, it's understanding that it doesn't just need to be physical rest, but that mind, being able to rest your mind or just being able to give yourself an outlet to not think, to not worry about work, to not stress, or to not feel like that overload. You need to be able to do that and create that in your lifestyle somehow, some way.
Absolutely. I mean, even then, like, there's one last thing I want to say, and you touched on it very briefly, like the physical recovery, man. treat everything like like you're an athlete in a sport. I'm biased because I am an athlete in a sport, but
I'm
I
an
say
athlete
this
in my mind.
Yeah, hey, realize B is 7 foot tall and she thinks she plays professional hoops over here.
Don't hate.
But like really treat it like it's a sport. You know, if you see LeBron apparently pays like millions of dollars every year on his body alone, so I try to treat it the same way. You know, if I have to have an exercise routine that for me, you know, it's not the same as my training used to be because I don't have the actual time for that. But I still try to, you know, do different functional movements that look like picking up a camera or picking up a heavy box. Actually, you remember that?
You did.
I have a whole fitness program about this.
For photographers.
We're going to bring it back out at some point, but shameless plug. But I will say, even aside from that, find some way to be active physically because photography, or even if you're not just a photographer, if you're creative that works behind a desk or the modern day creative works in very compromised positions. This is the personal trainer in me coming out. So if you are someone who's actively creative, you have to also be physically active. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're in the gym for 3 hours a day. It could be as simple as going on a walk for 5 minutes. Just do something consistently. And as you do that, again, it's like the yin and the yang. You rest your body, and now you're going to find the same relaxation in your mind. And then, boom, you have new creative ideas, and your work just continues to rise. So, yeah.
Rest and reset.
Rest and reset, baby.